Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brenda Seiler, lifestyle writer for the Washington Informer, and welcome to WIN TV. I'm filling in today for our publisher, our Washington Informer publisher, Denise Rolock Barnes, who is, as we speak, is participating in a Teens Speak virtual town hall on solutions for racism, violence, and economic equality, which is sponsored by the Do Right Thing of DC. That's right, as in WRITE. So we're glad that she's representing us. And the flyer that we have on the screen right now, the panelists are Tyrone Williams, the Director of School Safety and Security for DC Public Schools, Ward 8 Council Member Trayon White, as I said before, Denise Rolock Barnes, and the CEO of the Downtown Bid, Garen Price. The hosts of the town hall are students from the Summer Youth Employment Program. August is National Black Business Month, and we'll spotlight a few businesses on WIN TV in the coming weeks. So please stay tuned. I hope that you have picked up the latest copy of the Washington Informer. It's on newsstands right now. As you can see, you can also look at our digital version. Either way, it is free in newsstands or online at WashingtonInformer.com. Please do us a big favor and share this broadcast of WIN TV today through whatever social media platform you're looking at it with us today. That could be Facebook, it could be Instagram or YouTube. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. Let's talk about a little bit about who our guests are going to be today. Our first segment today is sponsored by the DC Department of Behavioral Health. They believe people can recover from mental health and substance abuse disorders. Joining us from the Department of Behavioral Health is Dr. Jean Moyweiss, the Deputy Director of Adult and Transitional Youth Services. The Executive Director of the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities is also here with us today. That's Aaron Myers, and he's going to talk about some of their programs, especially some of the grant programs that they have and how they've been working with the DC Jazz Festival over these many years. And the President and CEO of DC Jazz Fest, Sonny Sumter, is here today because the DC Jazz Fest, even though they've had events all along throughout the past several months, is getting down to the wire to the Labor Day weekend event, August 30th through September 3rd. Before we get into our first conversation, let's watch our weekly news broadcast presented by Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. U.S. senators have introduced the Payments Modernization Act, a legislation that will make Americans' funds deposited into their bank accounts immediately available for withdrawal. Presently, Americans lose billions of dollars each year in overdraft fees, driving consumers to turn to more costly financial products because of the country's inefficient payment system. By updating the Expedited Funds Availability Act and requiring financial institutions to recognize funds in real time, this bill will be the implementation of FedNow, the Federal Reserve's real-time payment system, by further improving American consumers' access to their money. Ayanna Pressley commented saying, quote, "As we continue working to lower costs for families and implement the Fed's real-time payment system, Congress must pass our bill so everyone can feel this relief without delay." Celicia Belton made history when the Metro Board finalized her selection as the leader of the agency's police department's firearms training range. Belton is the first woman and first African-American to serve in the position. As range master, she is in charge of the agency's weapons and ammunition range, as well as overseeing the training of officers on how to use their weapons, maintenance of the range, and working within its budget and seeing that it is well supplied. Commenting on the new job, Belton said, quote, "Metro is a different type of agency because it is tri-jurisdictional, and an officer had to meet the qualifications and follow the laws in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I also like Metro because I find it to be very family-oriented." Former President Donald Trump's legal woes took another historic turn on Tuesday as a federal grand jury indicted the twice-impeached ex-commander-in-chief on serious conspiracy charges related to the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, including an attempt to defraud the United States. This marks the third time a grand jury has indicted Trump this year. This time the charges are related to a special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and it adds to Trump's extensive list of legal troubles since leaving office. Notably, he's already facing more than 30 criminal charges in New York and over 40 in Florida, where he allegedly withheld and misused classified documents. Trump, who has consistently denounced the investigations as politically motivated witch hunts, had previously pleaded not guilty in all the other cases.
Thank you for that news update. We really appreciate staying in the know. Our first guest today, Dr. Jean Moweiss, who is head of the Department of Behavioral Health and Adult Transitional Youth Services Program. Let's welcome him to the show today.
Good morning, Brenda. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so happy that you're here, and thank you for your first time visit to WIN TV. Let's talk about your role and what does the program do? What does the program that you oversee do for district residents?
Sure, happy to do that. This is an important forum, and we always appreciate the opportunity to share with the public what we do in terms of providing mental health and substance use services to the community in the best possible manner. I'm a psychologist by training, and I currently serve as the Deputy Director of Adult Services at DBH, as you said. I'll define a little bit about DBH, who we are and what we do in a minute. But my job is to ensure that those district residents who need mental health and substance use services receive immediate access to quality care delivered by certified, qualified professionals in a culturally sensitive and competent manner. So that's my job, to oversee our delivery system to make sure people get the care they need when it comes to mental health and substance use services when they need it in the best possible setting. A little bit about DBH, if I may, real quickly.
Sure.
The Department of Behavioral Health is the city government agency overseeing behavioral health services. And by behavioral health, we mean not only mental health services, but substance use disorders, that we all may face once in a while, as well as emotional and wellness challenges. So the Department of Behavioral Health is the agency within the city that develops a full continuum of services to ensure that district residents get the care they need when they need it. We oversee those services. We manage quality and access of the full continuum to make sure that the people get the care and support they need.
Could you talk a little bit about and explain the work that you do with transitional youth services?
Thank you. That term can mean a lot of different things in different contexts. But in this context, although we do provide services for folks that are transitioning as well, but in this context, the term really applies to the developmental phase where certain individuals are between, childhood or adolescence and young adulthood. And that phase, that developmental phase, offers unique challenges, as we all know, if anybody has teenagers or young adults, that they sometimes struggle with. So we want to make sure at the Department of Behavioral Health, we not only have services for children and youth, which we do, which report up to a different divisional director, not myself, as well as adults, but we also want to make sure we pay special attention to the needs of transitional age youth between 16 and 23, let's say, with unique challenges to make sure we offer services and supports to meet their needs as well.
How can one access the services that you have to offer? Is there a referral? Can someone just come to you and say, I need some help? How does that work?
Sure. We try to make that as easy as possible. We call it a system with little or no barriers to accessing care, because we all know mental health care, behavioral health care in general is very, very important. It's time, dollars, and investment well spent to ensure our well-being and our ability to cope and recover from whatever we're dealing with. So no referral is needed to access behavioral health services in the district. The best way to do that is to call our portal, our central access portal, our access helpline, as we call it, by dialing the following number, 1-888-7-WE-HELP, or the numerical digital equivalent is 1-888-793-4357. Again, 1-888-793-4357. And through that number, you can call no matter what your need. It's a 24-hour access helpline staffed by licensed and experienced crisis counselors and behavioral health clinicians, and they'll talk to you on the phone right then and there if need be. If it's again 24 hours. If it's during the day and you have questions about what kind of care you may need or what kind of provider may be able to help you or where you might be able to seek care, they'll direct you to one of our certified providers. If you're in crisis, they'll direct you to our crisis services and link you to emergency services to get the help you need. So it's our central access point. You can get, again, besides the crisis counseling right then and there, you can get up to 3 counseling sessions from one of these counselors to address any coping issues you may have without registering for care, without necessarily even identifying yourself. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people to know what the services are and to connect them to care. That's our central access point. But a little bit more about our range of services. Again, we oversee outpatient services, residential services, hospital-based services, group homes, peer-operated centers, as well as community prevention centers. So it's hard sometimes for people to figure out where to go and how to navigate the system. So we encourage people to call that access helpline 1-888-7-WE-HELP, and we'll direct you to wherever you can get the best help.
Thank you for that. For those that are just tuning in, we're talking to Dr. Jean Moise, and he is he's under the Department of Behavioral Health, Adult Transitional Youth Services Program. And let's talk about what we as a country, as a people, have been going through with the pandemic. We have seen many more concerns about mental health, our behavior, accessing services. It is not uncommon, at least once or twice a day, you may see somebody maybe talk about things that they have been going through and being very open, being transparent about that. And then it may be followed up by a phone number where an individual can call. Talk about what your office has seen as we have been coming through the pandemic and trying to come back to what I like to call the new normal.
Right. Very, very, very important question, Brenda. Thank you for asking it. Although, as you said, we're coming out of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and the prevalence is not as high as it used to be. We're still suffering from the consequences of 3 years of dealing with a pandemic and the consequences of the management and containment of that process. Certainly, as a result of, there was fear and anxiety early on and throughout the pandemic about people being sick and some people dying, obviously. But it's ironic because the means and the strategies to manage and contain this medical condition often in many people created other consequences, behavioral health and wellness consequences that were not anticipated. For example, as a result of isolation, disconnecting to our friends and our social networks, disconnecting and disrupting care patterns and relationships with professionals. People got more isolated, people got more depressed, people got more anxious, and the opportunities to access care in the midst of the pandemic were very limited. So we're finally coming out of that, but we're trying to make sure right now we offer as much access, as I said, as freely and as quickly and immediately as possible to people, so they can deal with the consequences of the COVID pandemic and deal with additional pressures and challenges that they may have as a result of the pandemic, such as economic pressures and job insecurity. All those things can contribute to people feeling less well and anxious, and we're here to help. Just wanted to stress that.
I think there's something else that we as a culture that Black people have always been challenged by, and that's the stigma around actually getting help, not just mental health, help for just about anything that is required. And it feels that more and more of us are opening up about desiring assistance, but still there may be that stigma. How do you break through that? Does your office go to different locations, maybe even to schools, high schools, even maybe some colleges in the area to talk about, you know, you're here in DC and this is what's available to you, and everything is confidential?
Yes, absolutely. This is such an important point. I just talked very briefly at a high level about the range of services available in DC for behavioral health and wellness conditions, people struggling with coping and recovery. But these services do no good if people don't access the system and access services. So through our community response team, which is a community a team of 24/7 team of behavioral health clinicians, community support workers, peers, and advocates who respond not only to crises and do community triage and crisis management and de-escalation, but they're engaging the community to address this issue of stigma, especially in the Black community and communities of color. These are marginalized, underrepresented, very stressed communities that have been impacted by historical and systemic racism, discrimination, and financial exclusion. And that has a consequence in our mental health, in our sense of well-being, and our self-esteem. So, and especially when you bring into the mix violence that some of our communities struggle with, unfortunately, and trauma and grief and loss. So we want to tell people that their service is available. And again, you can call that number I mentioned earlier without rattling off 500 services to figure out what you need and how to access. But people have to be willing to access those services. So the first thing I'd say is to recognize the impact, the historical impact of the racism and discrimination on our well-being, to be willing to seek help when you need it. It's okay not to be okay and ask for help. And to remember that mental health is part of general health and wellness. So my director, the director of Dr. Vazron of Department of Behavioral Health, has a great catchphrase: get a checkup from the neck up. Just as people will go to their doctor periodically for whatever ails them or for a yearly checkup, it's good when you're not feeling yourself to get a checkup from the neck up. That way you'll be ensured that you're coping and have all the resources you need to deal with some of the onslaughts and challenges of our society.
I'm so glad that you said the term systemic racism, because I feel we've been hearing a lot more about equity in our healthcare services. And one of the things that I have found, there's some traditions in family where you take the first opinion from a practitioner that they give you. You're afraid to ask questions because you're thinking that you're talking to someone who may be smarter than you. They've got the degrees, but maybe you don't completely understand, but you don't want to ask more. You don't want to probe more, and you don't want to break it down. One of the things I've started to do with all of my healthcare appointments is I record the session. So if I have questions afterwards, I can listen to the tape again and see if I understand. And fortunately, most healthcare facilities have a portal where you can send in a question or something, but there's this fear that we are not to question anything that we're being told, especially when it comes to if you're going to be given medications for whatever it is. And mental health is like that. You think someone is trying to get into your brain and do something. Talk about those fears, because that happens to a lot of folks.
Right. True. Absolutely true. We need to, as a result of the systemic racism and the inequities in society around financial wealth, development, and economic security, well, there are inequities in healthcare as well. I mean, not so long ago, there were very, very, very few Black or minority physicians or healthcare professionals. Hospitals were segregated, just like workplaces and other places. And usually, no matter where you went, your provider did not look like you, did not necessarily understand your culture, your priorities, or your values. And there were impediments to connecting and trusting, your provider. So people just went to the doctor or mental health professional and basically followed orders. And that's not, we're working hard to make sure that changes, and has been changing over time. So we're obviously out in the community encouraging people to seek care. We're certifying a provider network that looks like our community, that represents our community, that have people that, look like you and come from a similar background and life experience. Because mental health, especially behavioral health, it's all about connection, trust, and empathy, and being able to connect and speak the same language. And if your provider doesn't understand you, or you don't trust them, they don't understand where you're coming from, it's hard for them to help you effectively. So part of what we're doing is to ensure that there's equitable access to services and quality services across the board for all our communities, but also that we're encouraging folks to seek out care from providers that have that are culturally sensitive to their needs and are competent to treat their conditions. It's a fact. Medical doctors and others have mistreated inadvertently and not maliciously Black people, for example, because they were misinformed about health and wellness and physiology and culture of Black people. So we want to make sure that we break those barriers, so when people seek care, they get the care they need, but also from someone who understands their needs and provides what they need appropriately.
We've been talking with Dr. Jean Moweiss. He is with the Department of Behavioral Health, Youth Health, Adult Transitional Youth Services Program. He's given us a lot of information. We want to put the contact phone number up again so people can get in touch with your office and the people that are there that are to assist them. And we'd like to have you back again soon, because this is an ongoing issue. And this segment today is a sponsored segment. And again, we appreciate the Behavioral Health Adult Transitional Youth Services Program. We thank them so very much, and thank you, sir. And please have a good rest of the day. And thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. We've got coming up next a gentleman for all seasons. That's what I like to call Aaron Myers, who is the executive director of the commission, the District of Columbia's Commission on Arts and Humanities. He's been in that position for a few months now, but he's been in and out and around that office for quite some time. And welcome, Aaron. We've been trying to get Aaron on for a couple of months. It has worked. This is a gentleman, as I said, a man for all seasons. He is choir director at Covenant Baptist Church. He's a jazz singer, which is another thing that's important to us in terms of when we talk about the Jazz Fest. And I let him know, I said, did I see you being promoted as singing at Mr. Henry's on Capitol Hill 2 weeks ago? He said yes, and he does that once a month. But we're here to talk about the commission. And welcome and congratulations on being appointed to the executive director of that office. Tell us a little bit about the commission and what you all are about for the arts and all the creative people in our town.
Well, first of all, thank you. And I want to, of course, encourage the viewers to hit their newsstands and pick up a physical copy of the Informer, or check out the digital copy edition as well. I view the Informer as a vital voice for what we have here in Washington. And so I encourage everyone just to thank you for your support, but to continue supporting the Informer as much as possible. And I am Aaron Myers. I'm the executive director of the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. And the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities is your state art agency. We are funded both nationally by the National Endowment of the Arts, as well as we have a dedicated tax source from our sales tax in Washington, D.C. And so our budget is around, this upcoming budget is around $51 million. And the art that you see in Washington, D.C., ranging from the murals on the sides of buildings, to the theater, to live music events, festivals, film, the humanities, it's in our purview. And these are things that we grant, we support. We create workshops to instruct on how to strengthen the grantees' accessibility and their ability also to get their art out to the people. We have our commissioners are appointed by the mayor with also advice and consent from the council to 3-year terms. And In years past, we've had commissioners that represented the needs and wants of particular wards.
Right.
And so we do have good ward representation on the commission. We are anticipating 4 more commissioners to join us. Right now, currently we have 10 commissioners. Reggie Van Lee is our chairperson. And as executive director of the commission, we have several grant programs. And I grabbed my quick guide to help me because I didn't want to miss anything out. I wanted this opportunity for your
very good
audience to really understand the full scope and plethora of what we grant. Our grants range from $5,000 to almost $500,000. Last year alone, this agency doled out over 1,400 grants, individual and project-based grants to the Washington, D.C. community. I've got to give a real big shout out to our staff because not only with the way they pivoted during COVID to offer grants and relief dollars to artists, for many artists, the money they received from the commission during the pandemic was the only money they may have received as far as relief and extra dollars. Because of just the extreme backload. I've got to give a shout out to DOES, Dr. Unique Morris Hughes, who also did a great job of supporting creatives during the pandemic. But some of the grants we did with, we have our Arts and Humanities Education Project grants. The max award for that is $30,000. And that really deals with in and out of school time arts and humanity projects for pre-K through 12 settings. We have our Arts Humanities Fellowship grants. Those are $10,000. Those are for individuals. So you'll find many individual grants that usually deals with awards to individuals whose artistic excellence significantly contributes to the DC as a world-class cultural capital. And those are really GOS, the things that you can take care of your business, I would say. East Arts, and that is for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, headquartered in the Northeast or the Southeast quadrant of Washington, D.C. And the max awards for those are $35,000. We have capital projects, and formerly that was our facilities and building grants. And so we have a new large cap grant that the council just issued, and many probably saw in the paper about the discussions and the things that went on between the council and this agency regarding that. Our facilities and building and relief grants, we're not doing any more. The council has discontinued relief grants from our office and citywide, actually. We have field trip experience grants, general operating support grants, liftoff grants, and this supports capacity building for nonprofits. And that max grant award is $25,000. We have what we call the PEF grant. That's the project, events, and festival grants. And that's also for individuals. That the max award for that is $10,000. And for organizations, the same project, events, and festival grants, that the max award for that is $20,000. And then when we think about public art, quick guide, we have the Art Bank program. And if you see the art behind me, we have that did come from our Art Bank. And a big shout out to Ron, who has worked hard to do that and to curate and to catalog all this. Our art exhibition grant, civic commission grant, Murals DC for individuals, public art building communities, and that's for individuals and for organizations, juried exhibition grants, as well as a Color the Curb school safety program. And that's very important. Lauren Glover has really worked hard to really shepherd that program. And that's a partnership between our office and the District of Department of Transportation, DDOT, and District of Columbia Public Schools, DCPS. So those are our grants. And our commissioners really are the chief defenders and protectors of the arts in Washington, D.C. And as someone who's been an advocate, an artist, sitting in this position gives me an opportunity to educate my fellow directors and educate policymakers on language and on the needs of the arts community, the creative community. It's my idea that this should be the creative capital of the country. And this is the district of creators. And so it's my goal in this particular seat and role over the next 2 to 3 years for us to be able to really flesh out and really quantify what the arts look like. I can break news on this program in two fronts.
Okay, let's go for it.
So the first thing is that I signed paperwork the other day for DC to be a part of the cohort for the music census. And we are doing a music census officially here in Washington, DC to quantify what the music ecosystem from Washington, ranging from musicians to venues, everyone a part of the music ecosystem, we're asking to be a part of this census. We're joining a cohort that's also being joined by Baltimore. So for the first time, we'll be able to see from Baltimore to Washington, D.C., what does music look like?
Wonderful.
Which is wonderful. But the breaking news is that not only will we be doing it for music, after the music census is done, we'll then go into theater. And we'll go from theater into dance. And we'll go from dance to film and television. And from film and television, we'll go into public art, which will include design, photography, and art. We'll go from there to the humanities, and then we'll wrap up with fashion. And over the course of the next 2 years, it's my goal for us to have a real understanding of what art looks like from a quantifiable data set in Washington, D.C. And we will learn that yes, DC is a federal city. Yes, governmental services is a big engine for the tax revenue in Washington, D.C. But it's my goal to prove that the creative community is just as big as an agency to be contended with here in Washington, D.C. And it's my goal to be able to pivot and to redirect funds to support the industry and to make sure this is a good place to do business from a creative standpoint. And so I want everybody to get ready. It's going to happen. The second thing I can break news for, just a few hours ago, we listed on our website, we are hiring a DEI position for the district, for the commission. And this DEI person will not only be internally looking at meeting the DEI needs of the task force that was set forth by the commission with the 44 action items that they had identified. But we'll be looking from a DEI standpoint, what is art looking like in the district? How diverse are our galleries? How diverse are the board of directors of these organizations? How diverse are the programming? How diverse are the audiences that the art is meant to reach? We're going to be looking and seeing how equitable our art scene is here in Washington. And we're going to do our best so that when, those who come to us for grants and they need money to ensure that if you're going to get this particular bread, that you have plans. And we want to see what those actionable plans are to make sure things from a diversity lens are equitable and inclusive.
You have said so much that piqued my interest, but also reminded me of things. I'm a native Washingtonian, and I remember being able to go on field trips, engage in after-school programs that were free. At my school, I was in elementary school at LaSalle Elementary in Riggs Park, and at the end of the school day, the cafeteria actually became a place for after-school activities. Some of it was art. Brownie Troop met there, games, but it was a place where people actually interacted. I remember going to plays that were being offered through DC Public Schools on Saturdays. They were either at Roosevelt High School Auditorium or over at Ira Aldrich, over at Howard University. They were 50 cents. My mother took my sister and I. And when you talk about the things that your office is funding, a lot of people may not be old enough to remember we had those things in the district that were available, but things, for lack of a better term, broke down and were taken away, like music programs. A lot of different things were no longer being made available for free through the public school system, that I feel that the commission has been trying to pick up the slack by making these things available to all communities. And I think it's also quite interesting when you talk about theaters, because DC has a lot of theater companies. It's not just the big ones.
The second amount of theater seats in the nation outside of New York is in Washington, D.C.
And you see the big ones, and this is no offense, no disparagement towards our larger theater companies, but they also need support too.
Yes,
they are also run by boards.
It's an ecosystem, and there's a misconception. There's a misconception that myself, maybe the commissioners, we have a vendetta against large organizations or large. That could be there. It could not be further from the truth. We have a creative ecosystem, and there is a feeder program. And you must have those larger organizations, those larger theaters, and some call them anchor organizations, anchor theaters. They must have the proper support. They must be uplifted because they serve a vital role and purpose. Just as you have those smaller, more neighborhood organizations and theaters that are cultivating three things: artists, they're cultivating audiences, and they're cultivating artisans. Okay, if you don't have these, neighborhood, these black boxes, these smaller groups and companies, where would some of the larger and regional spaces get good audiences, appreciative audiences? How will they know to appreciate or show up? Artisans, those who work to support the work of the theater, and the artists. It's important that each part of this ecosystem is supported. But to your point, and I think this is a rallying cry that should be the rallying cry of every district resident. We should have fully funded art programs in every school. It should not be an option. It should not be to the principal's discretion. It should be, and I requested a meeting with the chancellor to discuss this. We've not gotten the meeting yet, but I have requested the meeting with the chancellor. I do speak to all of those education activists and those in the community, art activists. You can't have a neighborhood theater unless we start to instill into our youth the importance of the arts as expression, as a tool to get out frustration, as a tool to speak truth to power. And if we don't do that, we're going to continue to lose our youth and young people in violent ways. I would rather our youth to pick up instruments versus guns. I would rather people complain about sometimes either truancy or the actions and attitudes of young people on the metro after school. It would be great if after school they could be going to theater programs or art programs, or someone fostering, if you're not giving them the option. And I think that when we decided to start, investing more money into resource officers and trying to corral a drug pandemic that had been somewhat implemented by the federal government, so on and so forth, I think that when we decided to put money closer to that versus doubling down and ensuring that these programs, especially regarding the arts, were not funded as they needed to be, or seemed to be optional, we saw a decline, and we will continue to see a decline unless that changes. And there are ways for that to happen. The public could demand that the council create a line item in the budget that could not be moved either way, so that all this money goes to ensure that public schools in Washington have fully funded art programs. They could do it. That is something that the public could demand from their representatives. But with what the commission has been tasked to do, the money that we have to give out in grants, it is our commitment and it is the focus of the commissioners to ensure that we're doing so equitably. But as an artist and someone who's been an activist, I can tell you what the commission has been funding has been Band-Aids, because we do not have a strong and a quantifiable industry, and it's not the easiest place to do business for creatives in Washington, D.C. And I'm thankful to people. I know Sonny Sumter is going to be on the program. I'm thankful for organizations like DC Jazz Festival, Sitar Arts Center. I think of what David Yarborough has done with the Washington Jazz Arts Institute. I think about what Herb Scott has done with the Capitol Hill Jazz Foundation. I think of what all these people have done, trying to make up for the shortfall of the lack of industry driven and corralling that's been intentionally done by the government. Or, there are entities that are supposed to be advocating for creatives. The Chamber of Commerce, for instance. The Chamber has not really been advocating for the creative spaces here in Washington, D.C. DC Economic Partnership, they've not been really advocating. Now, you have a great champion in Angie Gates at Events DC. She's been advocating, but I'll never forget my career was able to really be elevated because I had support from people like Sonny Sumter and the DC Jazz Festival. And we're fortunate that we have somebody who understands artist speak, artist language, understands the business and how to curate, produce, and to present artists that are DC based in a way where it can help their career. Because as these artists, as their careers are elevated, it elevates the profile of Washington, DC. And that's the goal, that as we offer grants to our the constituents and our grantees are successful, that brings business, it brings eyes, it brings support and resources right back here to the District of Columbia, and the district benefits when we're able to do this in the right way.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you, Aaron. I'm glad you mentioned Sonny, because we're ready to bring her on right now, because it's a wonderful segue for us to get into talking about DC Jazz Fest. And it's been going on. I think a lot of people think it's all just centered around Labor Day weekend. And you're right. It's a year-round event. It's a global event. It's a multi-generational event. And we're so happy that Sonny is going to be with us today. And as we get ready for Sonny to come in, let's take a look at some of the reminders and some of the memories of the 2022 Jazz Fest. And there is the lady of the hour, Sonny Sumter, the president and CEO of DC Jazz Fest. She has been bringing it.
I can't even contain myself. You see the joy on my face watching that.
I know. And me too, because I was like, oh my God, I think I went to all those. I saw so many artists that I covered. It wasn't just enjoying the music. I actually wrote articles about them. So it was a wonderful activity, and we're happy to have you with us, because the main event, there have been a lot of other events going around with DC Jazz Fest, as Aaron and I were talking about. It's a year-round love of jazz. But the main event, which a lot of people know that happens around Labor Day, is just a couple of weeks away. So why don't you give us a little bit of a hint of what we might be able to expect?
Well, it was so wonderful to sit back and listen to Aaron, and I'm so glad that he's in the seat, because he's such a champion for the arts, and he's such a champion for jazz. So really excited that he's in the role that he's in. You know, Jazz Fest does kick off on August the 30th through September the 3rd. We're taking over the city. We're calling it a jazz takeover. We're in more than 12 neighborhoods. I saw you at the Phillips Collection, because that was a prelude with the Frank Stewart photography and the Jacob Lawrence exhibit and great Langston Hughes performance. Langston will be at Sheila Johnson's Hotel,
I saw
Salamander,
that.
DC. He's going to be
Yes.
Jazz at the Garden there. So that's an exciting concert that we're doing with Langston, bringing him back. He's so amazing. Talent out of Howard University. HU, I'm a proud HU alum. But we're doing some fantastic things. I mean, I could run through so much. I think to Aaron's point early on, and you mentioned this, it is cross-generational. So much diversity, so much inclusion. Everybody is welcome to the party. So we're kicking things off actually opening night at the House of Sweden with the String Queens, and also with the Icelandic pianist Suna Gutlags. But we're also same day, Ayodele Owolabi is going to be at the Millennium Stage doing her incredible set on Wednesday the 30th. We're also doing DC Jazz All-Stars or Jazz DC All-Stars at Eaton DC, which is going to be some of the finest talent coming out of DC in an all-star concert. Just talking about moving on to the 31st, we're uptown at Parks at Walter Reed, and we've got Alex Hamburger and her amazing flute sounds with Jose Luis Martin bringing that incredible Latin jazz to that neighborhood. George V. Johnson's going to be at Millennium Stage on that same day on the 31st. And then Corcoran's coming at Tacoma Station with Marquise Hill doing some fantastic jazz there. So look at all those neighborhoods so far, and I haven't even gotten halfway through.
It's so much that's going on. And I just had a chance last month to go to a concert over at the historic Walter Reed area. That's right down the street from where I live. Cochran Holt, is that who you were referencing?
Mm-hmm.
Cochran is a longtime family friend. So it's good to see how he has developed his career. And there are just so many wonderful people. You mentioned Langston Hughes II. I've covered him a couple of times with what he's been doing. He's a lovely and a powerful sax player. He's just powerful.
Yes, he has been handed the baton and he is doing so good.
Yes. And I love that there is a mix of, yes, we've got jazz talent here in DC, because when people talk about jazz and DC, they easily reference Duke Ellington, but they don't know the breadth and the depth of the talent that we have always had here and that history. But we're bringing in folks from around the world that are coming into our town, because DC is an international city. So we need to make sure that we have an international jazz presence here. Talk about that. Oh, and the crowds just keep getting larger and larger. Like everyone, things were kind of put on hold with the pandemic, but it feels like DC Jazz Fest has come back stronger than ever. What is that like?
I think it's because we didn't slow down during the pandemic, because we knew that we could be a catalyst for people to enrich their lives during such a challenging period. So when we did the virtual festival, we had over 200,000 people from around the world. We were number 3 on Pollstar. We had never gotten on Pollstar on any list, let alone number 3. So I've really said a lot to us that people are hungry for jazz. And the fact that jazz has such a big umbrella that you can live under. So there's all kinds of ways that you can celebrate this great music with your own style, that you're right, it has become an international brand. And as I mentioned, we are partnering with the Embassy of Iceland to bring pianist Suna Gutlags on our first night. But we also have Ludovica Brutone, who's from France, that's bringing her violin, beautiful sound. I was just listening to her record the other day. She's to the Wharf, which is, DC Jazz Fest at the Wharf is September 2nd and 3rd. That's an all-star lineup. Can I just walk through that? I know we're talking international, but can I?
No, go please. Go ahead. We want to entice people with all the good stuff they're going to get.
So, it's so fantastic with that particular event, because it is 2 days. We're going to start off with Gregory Porter the night before at DC Jazz Fest at the Anthem. And if you haven't bought your tickets, listening audience, get it, because that show is selling out. And the String Queens are actually coming back to open for Gregory as well for that. So I think what is particularly unique about that is that we're going to make sure that we has his own coveted audience for that. So then people then come the next day for celebration all day long. We're going to kick off for our young families that have young children. Bring your children and get involved in a program called DC Jazz Bops that Heidi Martin leads. That's going to be in the Meet the Artist tent. We're going to have instruments that they can play, and we're going to do storytelling with Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong books, and it's so much fun. They get to jump around. It's really a fun opportunity to engage our families. And then we just started from there. I mean, look, Kenny Garrett is that weekend. And these are all NEA jazz masters. Kenny Garrett,
Yes.
Charles Lloyd, Terry Lynn Carrington, Dave Holland, Samara Joy. We know she just made us so excited by winning the New Artist Award for the Grammys. She is so authentically jazz that we're so glad. And every, that show, everybody's really calling like 5 times as many as anybody else. People, and I think it's that young audience that we referenced earlier that are coming out. We looked and, people are coming starting at age 13, and in the 20s, there's going to be a line around the block to buy her CD, and she's actually bringing some vinyl. In addition,
that's great.
Big Chief Donald Harrison, we know him from New Orleans. He likes to wear his Mardi Gras outfits, and we're looking forward to him bringing in second line with him. Arturo Farrell and the Afro-Latin Jazz Ensembles bringing some salsa to the party, so that's going to be fantastic. Everybody that I talk to loves this Cuban pianist named Omar Sosa. Omar is absolutely brilliant and just electric. If you don't know him, come and get to know him. You will just fall in love. Our artist in residence, Orrin Evans, is bringing his ensemble to play, and that's going to feature Cy Smith. And a lot of people may know Cy because she's from DC. Warren Wolf is going to be at Union Stage. He's from B-More. Vinny Valentino, who I went to school with, we both went to Howard together. Vinny is bringing his group. It's going to feature Federico Pena, Dennis Chambers, and Marshall Keys. So that's going to be pretty fantastic. The winner of last year's Jazz Prix, Julieta, she's going to be upset that I am messing her name up. Eugenia Trio is going to be performing. Then we've got Lee Pilsner, DC Zone. We've got Mark Meadows, DC Zone. Verano, DC Zone. Burkhead, that's from Baltimore. Etienne Charles, who I know you love.
I interviewed him last year, and I did not know how world famous he was. So now I know. I really feel honored that I had a chance to talk with him last year.
Well, Etienne is going to bring his Trinidadian Creole soul set. So it's going to be a lot of dancing, a lot of festive music. So excited that he's coming. And then we've got ASCAP Foundation is presenting the winner of their composers competition, which is a guy by the name of Chase Ilota, and his group is called Perennials. So he'll be performing. We also have this incredible Next Jazz Legacy that's coming. It's a project that Terry Lynn Carrington started out of New Music America. It's a group of all women, all young women, and they're going to bring their powerful sound to Union Stage that weekend. And last, I have to tell you, since we started the conversation about international, Isabella Olivier, she's a French harpist, extraordinary, lovely, like breathtakingly lovely. She's coming to the war. So that's that international component that you talked about. So it's just so much fantastic music. I can't even believe it.
Well, you all have put in the work, and it's so wonderfully and graciously, we are grateful that you're doing it. And I know all the audiences that come in from around the country, some coming in from outside of the country, to see and come to DC and understand that we know how to put on a jazz fest. Without a doubt, the jazz fest, that's what happens in the summer. There are jazz festivals all over. I know a couple of people that are up in Newport right now. I know that there's a number of jazz festivals going on, that one of our up and coming talents, Jose Andre, who is the young pianist who is at the Ellington School. He's in the Carnegie program right now. He's doing jazz festivals in Europe right now with Dee Dee Bridgewater and Sean Jones with the Carnegie Hall Youth Jazz Orchestra.
Oh, yes.
And so you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere, but you need to come here because this is what's happening. All the stuff that you're seeing all over, little bits and pieces of all of that is going to be right here in DC with DC Jazz Fest. And I am in great admiration that you were able to get Samara Joy, because we know if you follow her, everybody grabbed her. As soon as she won, she was already beautifully and wonderfully accepted before she won 2 Grammys, unprecedented, won 2 Grammys in jazz and as the best new artist. But she is everywhere.
Yes.
And when I saw her being put on the bill, I said, I was so happy that you all were able to get her. Those who know her, about her, listen to her, follow her, know that she has a voice that is unparalleled right now, which means, and she's 23 or 20, she's very young. That means there's a lot of growth happening there.
That's right. And we don't forget about Aaron. I think you just have a couple more minutes. We probably want to bring.
Yeah, we're bringing Aaron. Here's Aaron back with us.
And Aaron's in right on time because Aaron is hosting, as he's done every year, the DC Jazz Prix, which is our international band competition. Aaron hosted unlike any other. And we're excited that we're in our 8th year of the Prix, which is a $15,000 prize to the winner. So Aaron, thank you for being a part of that.
It is a great opportunity to see it.
The young bands are going to be very grateful to get that prize.
Oh, yes. But I think, and it also is a good chance for the audience to learn of new artists. I mean, these artists, I'm hoping that throughout the country, we can move away from saying local artists to like DC-based artists, Baltimore-based, regional-based artists, because our artistry really is worldwide. I mean, I remember when I was on tour and I was in Russia on tour, and I ended my show and went across town and ran into Elijah Jamal Baldwin, and Sam Prather. Or you're in the, in Vienna, in the airport, you run into Warren Wolf. Like, come on, like that kind of, those types of art. The DC, the artistry that's here is really world class, world renowned, world known. And the DC Jazz Festival, in my opinion, gets it right by bringing world class talent right here and presenting it as such. And it really does help the artists. And I can speak personally from that, I would say.
That's right. Can I offer a code just for Washington Informer listeners? Quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick.
So this is real special.
Listening, it's a comp code for you. Write it down. It's WIN as in Washington Informer Network, WINSAT or WINSUN. If you use that code when you go online for tickets, put that code in, you will get free general admission tickets to DC Jazz Fest at the Wharf on September 2nd or September 3rd.
Oh my goodness, for the Saturday or Sunday concerts. You folks, you heard it here. Okay, now this is why you need to listen to Win TV, because you just got a discount for DC Jazz Fest. You can't get it anywhere else. Sonny, thank you so much. And we will make sure that this airs again and that we push this out there, because we want some butts in the seats,
Absolutely. And, our festival is made possible through the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanity. What an incredible job that they do to lift organizations like DC Jazz Festival up. So I cannot thank Aaron enough for sitting in the chair right now and really helping to broaden the arts and cultural community and to really make the case for us being an economic driver. So thank you, Aaron.
Absolutely.
And a big thank you to all your other sponsors, that are coming in and helping to make this. If you want to name off some of them, that would be great, because they
give it up to
the
Washington
props.
Informer. You've been around since day one supporting us as a sponsor. So thank you so much. The Washington Post, Disney's on board in a great way, and Amazon. We want to give it up to them. Sage Communications, LCG. Oh my goodness, I could list them all.
Events DC.
Events DC, and let me just stop and say, Events DC is at the top of the list of sponsors that not only supports the wharf, but it supports all of our events. So we want to give it up to Events DC, to Destination DC for all of the great sponsorship work that they do. They're really our partners. They're really our stakeholders in the work that we do.
Well, we just thank you both for being here. If our audience has not been tuned in to what's happening with DC Jazz Fest, I know you're excited now, and you'll want to use those discount codes so that you can be a part of all the fun that's going to be happening all over town for DC Jazz Fest. It's the 19th DC Jazz Fest here in my hometown, Washington, DC. So I'm excited to be a part of it. Yes, Aaron.
One thing I will say, I was honored to be able to watch Samara Joy get that Grammy, both of them, in person at the Grammys this year.
At Grammys.
And I tell you, I think I've sat in that audience before, but I've never seen so many people from across the genres and across the spectrum rooting for a person so much as the entire, Staples Center was rooting for Samara Joy. They were rooting for jazz. So jazz is far from dead, honey. We are living proof that we are thriving. This is a thriving industry that is across the generations. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this year's Jazz Fest is going to do. I'm looking forward to supporting more organizations, just like DC Jazz Festival here from the Commission.
Jazz is in great hands, folks. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Maybe. And we thank you. We thank you. And that's my phone ringing. So that means we really have to wrap up. So thank you. I want to thank Sonny Sumter, the president and CEO of DC Jazz Fest. I want to thank Aaron Myers, from the executive director of the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, a DC Jazz Fest sponsor. And folks, we'll be tuning in next week. Don't forget, we're here every Friday live at noon. Denise Rolock Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, will be back in the host seat next week. Have a great weekend and be safe out there. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.